Hey guys, Angelo with a quick tutorial on your photo editing. This is for a friend of mine. Wanted to have a streamlined workflow starting in Lightroom, going into Photoshop, and using the Nik software plugins. So this is just going to be a basic edit for you. Image is captured in nice light, 300 millimeters f4. It looks good. It looks fairly sharp. This is going to be one of those critical ones that we want to make sure that we get level. We've got a pretty nice straight edge right here near the center of the frame, and that's what I would use. So I always start with, on a shot like this where it's a sunset shot or a morning shot, I like to change the white balance to shade, and then I will take a little bit of the yellow out just to give it a little bit more of a sunset look. Okay, moving down, highlights, just a touch. We don't want to pull them too far because there's nothing really overexposed. It's really captured in pretty nice light. Shadows, I do open those a bit. With the whites, I think I'll bump them up just a little bit. And on the blacks, how about right there? That looks nice. I usually leave this alone. Moving on down to the sharpening dialog box. What I'll do here is holding Option on my keypad. I'll move that to about 50, and then 0.5, and then we're going to mask it out by holding Option on the keypad and sliding the masking to the right. Okay, that looks good. Luminance I'm going to leave alone. I'll do my noise cancellation with Nik software. I'll always enable the profile and the chromatic, making sure that this is checked, and we're going to let Lightroom try to level it. Looks like they got it. Now, one issue I might have with this is the distance between the tip of the tail and the tip of the nose. You're not allowing enough room for a customer to have options when it comes to printing. I always like to leave a little more space there. That way it gives them the option if they wanted to have a wrapped canvas or something like that. So keep that in mind when you're shooting. Try to give a little bit of room, if you can, a little bit more than what is showing here. Okay? All right, moving on down. We're done with Lightroom. We're going to send it into Photoshop now. Okay, guys, we got it open in Photoshop. First thing I'm going to do is Nik Define 2.0. And I'm looking in the shadowed area. There is some noise down in the darker tones, and you can see how easily those tones are rendered noise-free with the Nik software. So I'm going to hit OK. And next step is going to be color effects. So let's send it into Color Effects Pro. Okay, in Color Effects Pro, it's opening in the Bleach Bypass filter, which is the last one that I used. And it's one of my favorite filters. We talked in previous tutorials about control point technology, and we're gonna employ that here. So I'm going to take the effect out of the sky. I'm going to put the effect down here. And basically, if you think about it, we don't want to add the effect on a brighter area of the airplane because there's no contrast there. It's just bright, right? We want it where we have a differentiating color tone from bright to dark, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put a control point here, all right? And then once we've increased the diameter of those three, we're going to open our control points, and we're going to click this tab, and we're going to see what we got, all right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and hold Option down and move that control point up to there to make sure I get all of the sky. And I'm pretty happy with the rest of this. The lighter gray just means that a percentage of the bleach bypass is being applied. The brighter area means it's completely applied. So let's go with that. We'll check this box. We'll move on, add another filter. It's a nice evening shot or morning shot. I'm not sure, but it's definitely got some great light. So let's add a little bit of warmth to it. and maybe a little bit of perceptual saturation. That really pulled out the green on the vertical stabilizer. All right, that looks nice. Now moving on down, you can choose detail if you want, but I'm going to show you sometimes I'll do detail, sometimes I'll do tonal contrast. If you use tonal contrast, just be aware that you may want to use a lesser degree. Now I like the balanced look, and I'll slide this to about 20, midtones to maybe 25, okay, 15, 25, shadows at maybe 20, and I'll leave the saturation where it's at. Let's take a look here. You can see the before and after. Really, to me, it really makes the image pop better than detail extractor. And let's finish this off with Pro Contrast. Pro Contrast, pretty basic, goes on every one of my photos to some degree. And what I'll do is I'll normally go about to 10 on that and maybe 20 there. So now, we want to make sure that we didn't generate a whole ton of noise in the sky, because remember, we added contrast to the whole of the image. And I showed you earlier how you can put these negative control points. So if you look down in this box down here, your loop and histogram, slide across and make sure that you're not generating a whole bunch of noise that we can't get rid of later. Right? There is some up there. I think it can be handled with one more pass of Nick Define. So all in all, I'm liking how this one looks. You could even maybe put a gradient on this, just to darken the top of the frame a little. So we'll put a graduated neutral density on it. And yeah, that darkened the sky up nice. You can see before and after. I also like the way that it kind of brought this back, the hangar door, or the top of the hangar. So I like where we are. Let's go ahead and accept that, and then we'll talk about sharpening. All right, guys, we're back in Photoshop, and I'm going to run a couple sharpening passes on this image. I've talked on previous videos about different ways to sharpen your image. We have lab sharpening, you've got high pass, you've got unsharp mask. I'm going to do a demo on a new piece of software that I just bought that I'm actually really liking. We've got frequency sharpening, all kinds of ways to do it. But I want to just show you the basic way. I've created some actions here for that, but I'm going to talk you through it and how I do it. So the first thing we do is we hit Command-J, duplicate, and then I duplicate the image. And hit OK here. And then now we're working on the duplicated image. I resize this one to the size that I'm going to upload to whatever photography site you're going for. Now, if you know that you have got a crack of a shot, it is perfect. It is spot on. You can go for a higher pixel width. If you've got a shot that might be in dimmer light, you might want to hide a few things, you might want to go for a smaller width. Okay, for this one, it's an evening shot. I like where it is, but I'm going to go ahead and pick a modest 1400 pixels. I leave this with bicubic automatic unless I've got a whole dark sky back here with like spotlights that are going to create a gradient. In that case, I would use best for smooth gradients, but bicubic automatic's okay for me. Now that it's resized, we're going to go ahead and zoom back into 100%, and we're going to sharpen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a high pass layer. So we're going to go Other, High Pass, and we're going to set this at 0.7, and then we're going to hit OK, and then we're going to change the blend mode to hard light, and then we're going to create a layer mask, and then we're going to invert that mask by hitting Command-I on your keyboard, which just hid all the sharpening. Now we're at 100%. You can go to 200% if you want, and grab a brush by hitting B on your keypad. Make sure that you have a white foreground color down here, and I usually use a hard-edged brush for the sharpening pass. What we want to do is only put the sharpening where we want it. So we're going to paint it onto the airplane. All right. And the building and the runway. And kind of watch as you go here and see if you're generating any jagged edges or significant boundaries between light and dark. Some people call that an edge halo. And if you are, just change your opacity right here. You can lower the opacity. So I don't think we are. I think it's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the radius of the brush and make sure I get all down here. And that looks good. So still working on this one. We're going to go ahead and flatten this and then Command J to duplicate the layer. And again, filter, other, high pass. This is the second kind of more specific targeting areas that might need more, but I go for a smaller diameter here, maybe 0.3. Hit OK, and then I change the blend mode of that to soft light, and then we'll hit the layer mask option, Command I on your keyboard, and then now zoom back in and let's just find areas that can accept more, that might need more. Here are normal trouble areas: passenger windows, landing gear, sometimes tail logos. Okay, if you can get away with it, paint a little bit more on there. Okay, it'll just make it pop that much more. So that's looking pretty good. Down here, I might not want to put any there, so I'm going to hit X on my keypad. Now we're painting out that area that we just painted in, because I can already see there's a little edge going on there between the white and the green. Hit X again to go back to white as your foreground color. Let's do the inlet of the engine. Let's do the landing gear. Okay, the wing. Let's take a shot up the passenger windows. I think the lettering can handle that. The windows, the flag, the nose gear. Okay. All right, I like it. So there it is. There's your size for putting on, a photography website. Now let's hypothetically say that we had induced some edge haloing or some jagged edges. Let's talk about how to get rid of that. All right. Jagged edges. Command J. Duplicate your background. Go here to filter, blur, and you can pick any kind you want. I use Gaussian blur. Put it at about maybe 0.8 looks good, just so it's blurry. Okay. Hit OK. Now let's make a layer mask and hit Command I and invert the mask. Now we're going to paint the blur where we want it. Now I use a soft edge brush for this, and I'll put my opacity of that brush at about 25%. Let's go back here to that area that I told you about that was a potential issue. So I'm just going to paint some blur right there. And it's very hard to see, but it's kind of taking care of that little boundary between light and dark. Lots of times I'll go around the tires, the edge of the tires, and put a little bit of blur, because sometimes you can see edge haloing around there. So let's just do that as a preemptive process. And I'll put it around the nose gear. And okay, that looks pretty good. All right, I like it. So now let's flatten this, and then we're going to save it for web. On Save for Web, just take a look at what I have up here. This is all you need. JPEG max, 100%. Convert to sRGB is important if it's going on the internet. 1400, it's the size I changed it to earlier. And now just hit Save and put it where you want it. So now that's saved. We're all done unless you wanted to watermark this now. So let's say you want to put this on your Flickr page. All I'll do now is throw a watermark on there and put it where you want it. Save it again, rename it Watermark. Okay, so I'm going to not save this because we're going to now work on the full size one. It's essentially the same, but I'm going to use a little bit of a different radius on my high pass. So we've already duplicated our layer. Let's go Filter, Other High Pass. And on this one, I'm going to slide it up so I can actually see the airplane, which I'll come up here to the lettering. And that's probably too much. And that looks pretty good. About 1.5 pixels. Let's change that to hard light. And let's put a layer mask on it. Let's invert the mask and let's zoom in and see what we've got. Grab your brush. Now remember, we had changed our opacity up here. Don't forget to put the opacity back. Don't forget to grab your hard edge brush. And change our diameter. And let's paint this sharpening on. Merge down on this one. And then I'm going to Command J. And we're going to run our second high pass sharpening process. So we're going to go other high pass. On this one, we're going to go from 1.5 to maybe 0.7. Hit OK. Let's change the blend mode to soft light. And let's put a layer mask on it and invert the mask. Zoom back in. Grab your B for your brush. Make sure it's hard edge. Still should be what we had it. And then we're going to add a little bit more to pull a little bit more detail out of the shot. So as you can see, it's really handling this pass very nicely. I'm going to zoom back out, increase the diameter of the brush, and I'll just sharpen the background and the foreground. And that's it. So now you can save this right back into Photoshop, and that's all there is to it. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I hope you have a great day.